Hi everyone, I've been in the industry for 15 years, and in my career I've seen you did something and it shut down the screen. No? Or it was just my laptop that shut down. Now it doesn't work. It's working. I've been in the industry for 15 years, and in my career I've seen a huge change in the tools, technologies that help us to build more reliable systems. We have Grafana, Kubernetes, OpenTelemetry standard, other things, which I didn't have when I started. What also changed while I was developing in my career is how engineers adopted the language to talk about reliability. Today we have defined SLIs, SLOs, SLAs. We use error budgets and measure burn rates, use other intimidating abbreviations, MTTR, MTBF, other things. And those things really help to be precise about problems and solutions, to understand each other better, but also really, it does help us to make our systems more reliable. What didn't change, though, is how we engage with our business stakeholders or non-technical people in general. 10 years ago, I would go to my product manager saying something like, "Hi, we had a really bad outage last night. We need to redesign a service, otherwise it will keep failing, and let's discuss when we can put this work into the roadmap." And what would they say? What would they reply? "Oh, can we fix it later? Let's first deliver our business commitments." And that was difficult for me to run those conversations. That was really challenging. And I'm pretty sure something similar happens today. My name is Maxim. Thanks for introduction. And that's what I want to talk about today. 3 steps that will help you to make reliability a shared priority across the business. But before I go to the 3 steps, I want to touch on one really important topic. Why is it hard? Why is it hard to have those conversations, to explain value of reliability to non-technical people, to advocate for technical improvements when your stakeholders don't necessarily understand technology? There are many reasons. For every company is unique. Surely there are specific to the company reasons, but one common theme that I've seen is how we engineers engage in what we expect from our stakeholders. For example, I've seen engineers asking questions like, how available that system should be? Or what is an expected response time for this API endpoint? And those are valid questions. Yes, we want to know the answer. The problem is that we ask those questions to marketing people, finance people, product managers. How would they know the answers? Like, they don't necessarily, how would they know what the latency should be? They don't necessarily know the difference between microsecond and millisecond. And that's okay, it's not their job. And we somehow expect them to give meaningful answers. How can we do better? How can we engage in a better way? And I found one question is extremely useful, which is, how much do we lose when our system goes down for 1 hour? That's a specific question. It's a legitimate question to ask to business people, to non-technical people. And it's important. It's important to know the answer. Every business should know the answer, otherwise, why they have engineers doing something? And if you ask that question, your stakeholders will probably give you an answer. They will tell you what they have to say about it. And in that answer, there will be 2 important pieces. 2 important pieces. One is the business metric that your company cares about, or part of the company where you are in cares about. Revenue, clicks, users, likes, something that's well understood in this area and what is commonly drives the business. And the second part will be the criticality of the system. If you ask that question, you will immediately understand the criticality of the systems without asking how available it should be and how many nines it should have. By criticality, what do we do when outage happens on Friday night? Do we leave it like that? Investigate on Monday during office hours? Or do we need to wake up people immediately, start the call, and start responding to the incident? The response depends on the answer. If you lose pennies, do nothing. Wait till Monday. If you lose millions, well, better have a proper on-call and playbooks what to do. And those 2 things, the business metric and the criticality of the system, is what you need to make a first step towards making reliability a shared priority, which is to define SLOs, service level objectives, in business terms. I often see, if ever defined, SLOs, they are on the technical level, something like database must be available 99.99% of time. Latency should be within 200 milliseconds for 99% of requests. And those are good things to monitor and ensure that systems are working up. But they're not necessarily meaningful SLOs, because what's bad if database runs on 3 nines or 2 nines and not on 4? What's the impact if latency goes up to 500 milliseconds and not to 200? Hard to explain, hard to tell, who knows? And then those SLOs defined on the technical level, they seem arbitrary, they seem, just like number pulled from the air. Why is it important? And to bridge that gap, what helps is to use the business metric and define the SLO on the business level, the metric that your company cares about or your part of the company cares about: clicks, likes, views, transactions, money transfers, something that is specific to your domain. Start measure it. It's the same tooling, it's the same language that we use, but we apply it to the business level. And SLO is a very simple statement. It's just X must be true Y percentage of time, where X is the business metric and Y is the availability or reliability, depends on how you define it, that we want to have for this system. X from the answer to the first question, and Y is literally like a simple math exercise: how much you can afford, how much you're willing to accept, how much of downtime you're willing to accept, and how economical it is to build up to a certain level of nines of reliability. And that's an important step, because once you can do that, once you can express the SLOs in business terms, and you can justify that number because it's economical, because having a lower SLO for that, we lose more than actually spending to maintain it. I pulled this number from Uptime. If you want to make photo, you can go to the website as well. And the second step is to define how you calculate the cost of an outage. When something bad happens, what do you do? Quick and reproducible way to put a number. What's the impact? We had something bad happened. What was the impact? How can we do that? There are many ways to do that, and some of the approaches might be very scientific. Don't recommend doing that. One simple thing that works and requires zero effort, once you have a metric, compare week over week. Look at this graph. Yellow line shows transactions from the last week. Green line shows transactions from this week. Like, two graphs look pretty similar, except, do you see a problem here? Do you see an outage? Do you see the impact, the cost of an outage? It depends on how you count. It's 1 hour. The thing is, with Grafana Magic, I can put exact number. I can do integral of yellow line and subtract the integral of green line, and I will find out that 10,042 something transactions was lost in those two drops. And that's easy. Once you measure business metric, it really takes zero effort. And this approach will get you pretty far. You don't need to be scientific, try to predict the future, try to be super accurate. Compare week over week, day over day, whatever seasonality, whatever better fits your business cadence will work. And that's a very important step, because when something bad happens, you firefight the issue, solve the incident, you conduct a post-mortem, you find out the root causes or factors that led to the outage or the incident, and figure out what needs to be done. And once you can do that, once you can put a number on the outage, you can say, this is the cost of those improvements. This is the business value, and it is expressed in the same metric that's the business feature. And in my experience, that changed the picture from an engineering team having a product backlog and they're working on it, and on the side, they have engineering backlog and they wish they worked on it, but they don't. No, we can pick an item from one list and compare it with items to another using the same metric, using the same unit of measure, using the same scale, and it does help to prioritize technical improvements. Another thing is that unaddressed root cause is not a one-off payment, it's a subscription. If you have an outage, something happened, you didn't address root cause, very likely it's going to happen again, so expect more drops like that if something happens, if you leave the root causes and major factors unaddressed. And that's the second step. And the third step is to make it a practice, make it a ceremony, a process rather than one-off activity. If you find a metric, if you build dashboards, if you write a document how to estimate the outage, Cool, there will be some excitement. 3 days later, dashboard is lost with hundreds other dashboards. Documents is somewhere in shared drives, and nobody remembers that. Make it a practice. Report how your systems perform against the SLOs. Every week, every second week, what's your business cadence? Get your stakeholders in the room and run an operational review meeting. Cover a few things. What are your SLOs on the business level, and why that number economically sensible? What was the actual number? Did you meet the SLO? How did you perform against it? What if you did not, if the systems didn't meet them? What was the cumulative impact of all the issues, incidents? Apply the same approach for calculating impact. And what needs to be done? What were the root causes, major factors that led to those problems? What needs to be done about that? And once you start running those reviews, some weeks will be green and happy. Red line shows how we expect system to perform. Green line shows how it actually performed. Nothing to talk about, everything is beautiful. Some weeks you will have drops, but then you can put a number on it. You can put a number on those drops and see what is a priority, how important it is, how much did you lose, what was the cost of those drops, and what needs to be done about it. And prioritize it, because you can put an impact expressed in the business metric on the problems that led to those drops. And again, remind your stakeholders that unaddressed root causes, it's not because they are not one-off payments, they are subscriptions that your company commits to if we leave root causes unaddressed. And some weeks will be embarrassing. Like, you don't want to run a review for those weeks. Run it anyway. Meet your stakeholders. Remind about your SLO. What was the actual number? Did you meet it? What was the cumulative impact of all the drops, big and small? How much did you lose in those drops? And what needs to be done about it? What are the root causes? What are the major factors that needs to be addressed? What is actionable? And if you do those steps on such weeks, chances are high that everyone in the room will understand that reliability is the most important feature that your system doesn't have. Because it doesn't matter how many cool features your product have if it's not available, right? But that's not necessarily obvious unless you work in reliability. And that's how you start making those continuous conversation about what's happening, how systems are performing, and what needs to be done. And you keep it all at the business level using the business metrics that your company understands. And that's how you start making steps towards reliability as a shared priority. Step 1, define SLOs on the business level. Find the metric that your business understands and care about. Start measuring it. It's the same tooling, it's the same Prometheus, Grafana, whatever. Build the dashboards, it's the same. Don't limit yourself to, oh, that microservice did that and database is available. Bring it to the business level. Understand what the business impact should be behind the systems rather than monitoring individual services. Second step, define how you're going to calculate the cost of an outage. You will need that when something bad hits. You don't want to invent on the spot. Define in advance. That's our approach for estimating cost of an outage, and apply it continuously. And keep it like no-brainer that everyone can deploy that approach. Compare week over week, will get you pretty far. And the first step, run operational reviews. Report those numbers, cover how your system, why those SLOs meaningful, why they economically sensible. What was the actual number? Did you meet? Did your systems perform against this SLO, how it's going? Highlight the business impact, cumulative impact of all the drops that you had in your SLO. What was the impact? And then pinpoint major root causes and points that needs to be addressed. And that's how you start prioritizing technical improvements. Thank you.